Hey Run Junkies, welcome back to Dots and Donuts, my weekly Run Disney series where I talk about going after the perfect year. And with Walt Disney World Marathon Weekend officially started, in fact, as of this moment, I think we're done with the 5K. As of the moment this video posts, I think we're done with the 5K. Maybe the 10K, I don't know. I want to take a quick look ahead though, as we figure out what's next as we go from the Dopey Challenge to the Princess Half Marathon Weekend. Stick around. Before I get into the question of how I'm going from Dopey to Princess, I want to say a very special thank you to those of you who have supported my team, MSAA, and my fundraising campaign for the Dopey Challenge. Thanks to all of you, we raised $3,557 for multiple sclerosis research and support. This was the biggest, scariest ask, and we hit our goal way back at the end of October. 61 donors gave an average gift of over $58. I had so many doubts going into this training cycle, but your generosity really helped keep me going. So I've said it before and I'll continue to say it, thank you, but that is just not enough. With all of that said, let's move on to the big question for the day. One of the most common questions I get when it comes to Run Disney events is this: how do I train for Princess Weekend right after doing Dopey? It's a really good question because there are typically around 7 or 8 weeks between the two. We have 46 days off between the Disney Marathon and the Princess 5K. It's not a lot of time, and many runners doing both weekends might feel like they have to rush back into marathon shape to be ready for Princess. But let me tell you a little secret. You really don't have to do that. Now, I'm going to unpack that here for a minute. All right. If you finished the Dopey Challenge training cycle, no matter what training philosophy, training plan you used, all right, you've been building up your training for 6 months or so to finish 48.6 miles. That kind of training requires some recovery. Now, the standard rule of thumb, it's kind of a basic one-size-fits-all, is that it takes your body 1 day for every mile traveled for everything to fully heal up. Not just muscle soreness, but tendons, ligaments, the skeletal system have all sustained damage from miles of pounding. So do the math for a second. 48 miles, 48 days to full recovery. Remember when I said we have 46 days to Princess? Yeah. A common issue I hear from so many Dopey to Princess runners is how tired they are, how hard their runs feel during this January, February time, and how surprisingly long it takes to get back into it. This isn't just a physical recovery thing, but a mental thing as well. Building up to Dopey is a huge mental training regimen too, and the post-Dopey blues are a real thing for so many of us. I've completed the Dopey Challenge twice and the Goofy Challenge once, and all 3 times it was really well into February before I started feeling like my old running self again. So here's how I'm going to handle this chunk of my perfect year training cycle. Instead of rushing right back into training for Princess, I'm taking a much longer view, and I'm looking ahead to Springtime Surprise as sort of my next endpoint. Now, back in July, I explained that the perfect year training is really 2 big chunks, okay? The first chunk is Dopey Challenge training. The second chunk is for springtime. That's where we're sitting right now. The trick is to not fight the recovery process, but rather embrace it. Now, when I say recovery though, I'm not saying to take 6 weeks off of exercise entirely. What I am saying is that our return to running should be easy and take a little time. Movement and exercise are still going to be very important during this recovery phase. So here's how I'm going to tackle the less than 7 weeks to Princess. And I'm going to break it down week by week, basically. Week 1, okay? Right after the marathon, walking, lots of walking. It will not only keep me active, but it will help flush out the muscles from the toxins built up that are creating the muscle soreness. Once the muscles are no longer sore, probably by the end of the first week, I'll make sure I'm adding in some light yoga and foam rolling. Foam rolling sore muscles right after the marathon could actually lead to more damage, so I'm going to hold off on that for a little bit. Now, I might test the running with a 30-minute recovery run on Saturday after the marathon, but only if it feels right. And I'm still going to listen to my body here. If I'm not ready to run, then it's just more walking. We're in week 2 now, more yoga and foam rolling and short, very easy runs. The thing about these runs is that I have the option to turn them into walks if I'm not ready for the running yet. I might start adding in some cycling or swimming for cardio, but all efforts are still easy, low heart rate. Now, by the end of this week, if I'm feeling up for it, I may get up to a 60-minute weekend run, again, opting to turn it into a walk. Week 3, hopefully, if recovery is going well, I'm back up to running 3 to 4 days a week, but with no more than 5 or 6 miles for the long run. Now, this is when I might start adding strength training back in. I'm not doing high intensity work just yet. The runs are still easy and the strength will be there to support it. Kind of fast forwarding weeks 4 through 7, by now the runs should start feeling better again, and I'll be building back up to about 10 miles for the long runs in the week or 2 before Princess. But wait a minute, isn't there a half marathon for Princess half marathon weekend? Why aren't my long runs going any longer than 10 miles? Well, yes, there is, but the Princess half will likely be my longest run for the whole spring season. Remember, the longer game here is to springtime, which includes a 5K, 10K, and 10 mile. Again, for those of you who know Run Disney, more often than not, the goal is to finish. Training for Dopey builds up our bodies for these longer miles, and the Princess Half Marathon is still doable if we don't force the recovery process. I know I have the miles in my legs to do a 5K, 10K, and half across 3 days. I just did it in November. But the most important factor to get to and through all of that healthy is a slow and careful return to running after Dopey. Now, if you look at my wine and dine to Dopey plan, it was very similar. The first week back, I didn't really run much at all. I slept, I walked, but otherwise rest was more important than the miles. The same is true here for Dopey to Princess. Priority 1 is recovery, not the Princess half. This 7 weeks, and certainly the first few weeks after Dopey, will also be important for the right nutrition. Loading up on protein will help with recovery, as will good hydration practices. So that is how I'm going to handle the Dopey to Princess transition, but what do you think? Are you making this same transition from Dopey to Princess? And if so, how are you handling it? Please leave thoughts, questions, comments, and suggestions for future videos in the comments section down below. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with your Run Disney friends who might just be doing the same thing. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember, you have no limits. Happy running.